Broadcasting live from the Spire Bluff Canal on the plain of Kaladesh. Welcome to Tap Tap Concede. Graham here with
Cameron
and Alex.
Yo, what's up?
And today we actually asked you on Twitter for some topics to talk about. Not like a mailbag thing, but just suggestions of what sort of stuff you want to hear about. So we will be discussing a couple different things on today's show, and excited to get to that. But first, we got a crack to pack.
Where did get the die? Okay.
Wham!
Really, every time.
Right across
You're
the
gonna
room.
take out the camera.
Six from here.
So
Six.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. It's Chinese Dark Ascension. No, wait, that's
Yep.
no, it's Japanese Dark Ascension.
So it is. All right.
All right.
I'm glad
I was
we
like-
have it from the thing there. This is from Chris, and it says platinum in square brackets. So
Huh.
I guess that's
Username?
a username, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Anyway, this was at PAX East 2016. So
Maybe
thank you,
how
Chris.
his album did.
Ooh,
That would be
it's
pretty,
fire.
Yeah, that'd be pretty boss.
It's like, yeah, my mixtape went platinum. Wait, what? How?
Yeah, it's actually like,
This is different.
oh, the packaging is all weird.
It's
Whoa, that's
hella foil. Weird.
super foily.
Alrighty. Okay, now can we remember from the art? This is Falkenroth.
It's a vampire.
Something.
Near
Heath
Stalker,
That's
right?
what it
Yeah,
was.
4-1 with the vampire ability.
Right, this was the set with Undying.
Right.
It was like you got your persist
Oh.
backwards.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Near Heath Stalker, 4 and a red for a 4/1 with Undying. And what Undying means is that when the creature dies, it goes to the graveyard and then it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it. If it didn't already have one on it.
Yeah.
So you get each of these creatures twice, and the second time it's bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
And more angry.
There's a couple real good ones in here. Maybe
yeah.
we'll get them.
This was
Yeah.
not one of them.
Yeah, I never know how to play these red guys with like ludicrous power and no toughness.
Run them in.
Because I always seem to be in a position where it's like, they've got a 1/1. And whenever I'm playing against it, it's like, I guess I have to throw multiple 3/3s under the bus for this thing.
Yeah, you don't feel good paying 5 mana for something that trades for a 1/1, but then you get a 5/2
Yeah.
that trades for a 2/2. But
Yep.
that one's free.
Yeah.
That's a common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is the Silver Claw Griffin. This guy was all right in draft.
Yeah, this...
3/2 flying first strike for
yeah,
5.
3 white. Yeah, 3/2 flying first strike. It's the first strike that was relevant.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff you wanted to block.
Yeah, things like the Spirit Lord, the 2/2 flying.
Drog Skull Captain?
Yeah, Drogskull Captain.
Right, that's this set. Right, I forgot about this. Yeah, because
The old Spirit Lord.
yeah, Dark Ascension had the cycle of dual-colored
Yeah, tribal lords, yeah.
Was,
Yeah, there's a werewolf one, a
spirits,
vampire one,
werewolf, vampire, zombies,
Zombie.
and
humans, right?
No.
it was
I don't remember what the last one was.
Spirit, zombie, wolf, werewolf, vampire, and was there a green-white one? There must have been.
Maybe?
well,
But
now
humans also... Yeah, now I'm drawing a complete blank.
because
I don't know, it might have been an incomplete cycle. I don't remember.
I didn't think that it was one of the. I thought it was a monster race. I didn't think it was humans.
Yeah.
Well, that was the
now
whole
I
thing
can't
with the set
remember.
was that like there was monster races and the last one was humans.
Yeah.
It's like zombies, vampires, werewolves, spirits, humans.
Huh. Yeah, I guess maybe
What
there
am I?
wasn't.
Yeah, I just
Well-
can't think of what it was now. Nibulus of...
Shriekgeist.
Oh.
Shriekgeist
Over
was
2.
Shriekgeist was pretty good. It's a 1/1 flyer for 1 and a blue, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player mills the top 2 cards of his or her library into the graveyard.
Mill was so dangerous in this set.
It really was because you didn't want to mill your opponent because you were giving them possibly flashback cards that they could hit.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, mill was a viable win condition because
yeah,
people
yeah.
were running decks that they would mill themselves, and there was a lot of actually very effective mill cards, and you could mill people out.
Because was Increasing Confusion was easily first pickable in the set?
Yeah,
because
the blue fireball.
Yeah, because it would kill someone on its own because it was mill 10, and then if you flash it back, it was mill 20.
Yeah,
That's
Right.
almost an entire draft deck.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, by the time you hit
cast
it, it was.
Well,
yeah. And there was just a lot of different effects that made it work. Wait, wasn't it? It wasn't actually mill 10 and mill 20. Wasn't it X? It was actually a fireball.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure that it was like
Mill X and then mill
was
X
like-
twice.
no, it was mill X, and then it was like XX, but it got double. Paul, could you bring up increasing confusion? I am misremembering this card.
We
I'm
are
probably conflating it
experiencing
with like
increasing
traumatize.
confusion.
Yeah.
Well, traumatize is just
Yeah.
Half your library,
mill half
yeah.
your library.
Which is like
It gets worse the further the
yeah.
game goes along.
Oh,
Right,
it was
X and a blue, and you mill X. Right,
you
and
just
it's
cast it twice.
flashback X and a blue, and it's
Oh!
twice that.
Right.
So yeah,
Damn.
this was very, very effective.
Yeah.
Not
Because
too
you
bad.
you get them for 5, and then you do the next turn, and then assuming you get one more mana,
Yeah,
then
they
you
did
get
a whole
them for 12.
cycle of flashback for double their worth
yeah,
cards.
the increasing cycle,
Yep.
increasing loyalty,
Increasing devotion.
Devotion, that's the one.
Increasing
I was
confusion.
thinking of. Increasing predation or something.
I think
That was the one that was the green
Yeah.
one that put counters on it.
Yeah, and if you put googly eyes on it, it'll look like Cookie Monster hanging upside down.
That's so silly.
Increasing,
Fire 1.
yeah, the one which was a fork effect. And
Savagery. That's the
Savagery.
one. So yeah,
Yeah.
Savagery is the put 5 plus 1 plus 1. It's 4 mana
5
for
or
5
10.
counters, and then for 7 mana 10 counters.
Yeesh.
Anyway,
yeah, these were cool cards.
But by the way, I was just looking in the original Innistrad cycle. There's only one green-white card, which is Sigarda.
right.
So there was no green-white lord.
Huh.
In Dark Ascension, there.
It
Wow.
must have been
okay.
like all the monsters and no humans.
Yeah. Well, that would explain why we couldn't remember it.
All right.
did-
Because like
Didn't exist.
the equivalent was, I think,
Because there's like
Hamlet Captain.
Mare of Averbrook
Yeah.
Yeah.
was sort of a human lord
Yeah.
and a werewolf lord.
Mare
Right.
Force One.
Mare Force.
But
All
he
right.
was just green.
This one I remember. This is the Dawn Treader Elk.
Oh yeah.
Yes, got it. All right. It's a 2/2 for 1 and a green, so it is bears, which is always fine. And then for a green and sacrifice it, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and
This
shuffle
is
your library.
Sakura Tribe Elder with 1 more power and toughness, and its ability has to be activated with green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
yeah, no, that's That's
yeah, I
different.
remember. Yeah, because there had also been in Mirrodin block before this the guy that goes into Pod, who I can't remember. So this is basically just cool story, bro.
Can I just say that the art on this always confuses me? It looks like I'm seeing double.
Yeah,
Because you got 4 arms.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's a snake shaman.
Snakeman.
The snakes have 4 arms in
This is snack.
that plane. Snack.
boot the snoot.
But yeah, Dawn Trader Elk was always pretty good because you often wanted to fix your mana.
Oh, here's a good one.
Thought Scour.
Yeah,
So this is single blue mana instant. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, and you draw a card.
yep.
Surprisingly sees a fair amount of play in Highlander
Well, yeah,
and
it's
in like Legacy.
yeah. I want to say Legacy because it goes into. I think this goes into Delver.
Well, because it does a bunch of weird stuff. Because it cantrips for 1.
At instant speed.
Yeah, it fuels stuff like Delve. It fuels other graveyard-based things.
Yeah,
And occasionally you just blow somebody out who's trying to do one of their top deck tutors.
yeah.
You're just like,
So you were almost always using this on yourself. Right?
Yeah, like the thing in standard with
Yeah.
this was that you used it to basically as a combat trick to feed
Runechanter's Pike?
Runechanter's Pike.
Oh man, holy moly.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Because like sometimes you could just giant growth a Runechanter's Pike off this.
Because Runechanter's Pike was that the creature got plus
X plus O and first strike.
for the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So
You
this
could add 3.
the Thought Scour is 1 on its own, and then if you hit 2 more, yeah, then you just boop 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 boop,
Yep.
and it stays that way too. It's
Yeah.
not- yeah.
It was totally sweet when it worked.
You could use it in limited for the mill thing, but even in limited, if you were running Thought Scour, you were using it on yourself most of the time. Dream Twist though, man, Dream Twist was a hell of a thing. All right, this one I think is Bar the Door. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 and a white for an instant. Creatures
the
you
door.
control get plus O plus 4 until end of turn.
So this is Hodor.
Too soon.
What do you mean too soon?
So yeah, creatures you control get plus O plus 4. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever.
yeah.
I don't think I ever saw this get run.
Haha, I fogged you.
Oh, what's this one?
Get bogged on.
Oh God.
It's a sorcery.
Snatching Geistmans.
Something to do with geists. Rack with Madness. 3 and a red, sorcery. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power.
This is a weird one.
Stop hitting yourself.
Something just fell down over behind the thing.
Because this was an effect that I've seen in black. I think it was Kiku's Shadow. Is this card for black? It's not actually that great.
This this effect was just reprinted as an instant
Yes.
for the same cost in Shadows of Innistrad. And I don't remember the name of it, but it's like a guy fighting. It's like a guy fighting the mirror image of himself.
That's super cool art, by the way. Just like this apparition of the guy of himself just being like,
Yeah.
finish him.
It's Dark Link.
And that's also what Kiku did.
Oh yeah, it's her activated ability. This card is not good.
Oh.
Oh.
Man, Kiku is angry.
Yeah.
Nice flower though.
Cool. Yeah. The why can't I remember the name of the new?
I don't
version of
remember.
this?
I want to say my brain is keep saying it's Descent in the Ranks,
No. Yeah.
and it's like no brain. That's a different effect.
That's a different card. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, the new one, the instant speed for 3 and a red, creature punches itself, is only kind of playable, and the Rack with Madness was really not.
Yeah.
Really just not playable. Not Past in Flames.
Oh, Fires of Undeath?
Fires
Yeah.
of Undeath.
Hey!
Though. That one. This one was always pretty good.
Such cool art.
Yeah, I remember when this came out.
I have a
And
playmat of this.
yeah,
So do I.
I wanted to get a playmat of this, only it made me feel weird. But like the playmat was so gorgeous because the color saturation on it was really deep.
Yeah.
And so like the red was really bright red and the flames were like blue.
So it's 2 and a red, instant. It deals 2 damage to target creature or player. And flash back for 5 and a black. So like 3 mana is a lot to pay for a shock. And 6 mana is also a lot to pay for a shock. But as it turns out, both on the same card in this set made this card very, very playable.
Yeah.
Very playable.
Firebolt is better than this card though.
What's this one? This was the discard. Discard in with Morbid. You discard 1, but you discard 2 if there's Morbid or something. Gruesome Discovery. Oh, discard 2. Right. Okay. 2 black for a sorcery. Target player discards 2 cards. So right there, that's just Mind Rot.
Yeah.
But if you have the Morbid trigger being if a creature has died this turn, instead you choose the cards.
Oh, it's super Thoughtseize twice.
Yeah.
Because it can hit lands.
Yeah. It's just 2 cards. So it's cool, except that it's 4 mana.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
not so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this card.
Oh, what's
so
this one
much.
called? Mystic Retrieval. So Mystic Retrieval is pretty interesting. It's 3. Oh no, this isn't the one I'm thinking of. This is still good though. 3 and a blue, sorcery. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, and you can flash it back for 2 and a red. So this was
is like-
part of the sort of the blue-red spells deck of the set.
Yeah, and if you could get a runic repetition
That's what I
from
was thinking of.
Innistrad, which let you take a card from exile or return a card from exile into your hand,
Yeah.
or an instant or sorcery with flashback. I think it had to have flashback
Dag.
into your hand. You could do a very slow loop with this, where you basically it meant that any instant or sorcery you had flashback. Or not flashback, not rebound.
Retrace?
Not retrace, where you buy it back. Buyback! It had buyback!
There you go.
It had buyback for like 7 mana.
Right.
Which wasn't great, but if you could get an Arcane Duel, which was an enchantment that nobody liked because it dropped the cost of instants and sorceries by 2 generic mana,
yeah.
then it could come down quite a lot.
Yeah, and also you could like just on the face of it, you could cast a spell with flashback, flash it back, get it back with Mystic Retrieval, cast it again, cast a spell, flash it back, Runic Repetition it back to your hand, cast it, Mystic Retrieval, cast it. Mystic Retrieval?
Yeah,
You could theoretically cast a spell like 6 times?
yeah.
Dag.
It was really good.
Just looking at the rulings for this card, apparently, if something is exiled face down,
It does not have flashback.
it does not have any
Because
Right.
it's not open information.
It has no types or abilities or anything, so you can't use this on it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
occasionally cards say exile this face down, and usually it seems arbitrary, but apparently it does matter.
Yeah, no, like this made me so happy playing this deck in standard
Yeah.
because it was like arcane. It was arcane duel, this runic repetition. Burn spells, burning vengeance.
Right.
It was sweet.
Burning Vengeance.
It was totally sweet. People loved it, and it also just died to everyone running 4 of Celestial Purge in their sideboard.
Man, we're getting all the mill cards, if I remember correctly. Yes, Chill of Foreboding, 2 in a blue, sorcery. Each player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Flashback for 8. 7 and a blue, specifically. This was
Ghost Grip.
okay. Hey, look who
Hey,
it is.
Diagraph Captain.
Hey, it's Diagraph Captain. 1 blue, black for a zombie soldier, a 2/2 zombie soldier, and it has Death Touch, and other zombie creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a zombie you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life.
This card pisses me off because it's blue.
Yeah,
And it
'Cause you want
doesn't
it to-
fit. I'm trying to make Zombie Lander work.
Right.
And I feel like it's pretty close. But
This seems like it goes really well with like sack effects.
yeah, but
You got like
kinda.
your blood artist out there, and then you sack a bunch of zombies, and they lose a bunch of life, and then they also lose a bunch of life.
yeah, I mean, just sometimes making all of their removal and all of your combat cost them a life is good enough. This is like an enormously efficient Lord. It's one of the best ones,
Yeah.
but tricky to get in because I think the best version I've come up with is green-black. I don't have a... Hey!
We talked about it as well. This is Increasing Devotion.
Hey, Lamau.
So it's 3 white for a sorcery. Put 5 1/1 white humans onto the battlefield, and 7 for flashback for 7 white. You get 10
a
tokens
lot.
instead.
yeah. I remember we did this in limited once, and
yeah.
because the human tokens for this had like a side that they all had up,
Right.
it looked like a chorus line.
Right. Da, 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 da.
Kill you.
So yeah, for 5 you get 5, and then for 9 you get 10.
Sweet.
But they're on the same card, so it's pretty good. And then we've got our checklist
Checklist
card,
card, yeah.
and then we've got a spirit token, and our flip card, our transform card,
Chalice of Life.
is the Chalice of Life, which is a 3-mana artifact. You tap it, and you gain 1 life. Then, if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total, you transform Chalice of Life into Chalice of Death,
Oh no!
which you tap to make target player lose 5 life.
Ow.
This was not reliable,
No.
but
It seems quite poor.
it's pretty sweet, but it's not reliable.
Yeah.
Here's the human.
Brr. That looks like what's his name? He's a Hollywood actor.
I believe you.
It's on the tip of my tongue. No.
Ed Norton?
Looks kind of like adult evil Biff.
Biff Tannen?
Yeah, Biff Tannen, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, with the mutton chops.
Nice. So you mentioned standard,
Oh,
which
yes.
is one of the first things we're going to be talking about. Which I guess, in the interest of sort of magic news, Wizards has decided to change standard rotation again,
Yes.
back to what it was before the recent, what feels recent, change in how standard rotation works.
I was really surprised that it was 2 years old now.
Yeah, well, it doesn't feel like it because we've only really just sort of seen that happen. Basically, when they changed from doing sets with doing blocks with 3 sets to blocks with 2 sets, they also announced this change to how standard would work, where standard is the last 5 or 6 sets instead of the last 7 or 8 sets. So it was 18 months instead of 2 years. And the idea being that it would more quickly freshen up what the standard metagame looked like. Like standard would change more quickly, so you wouldn't see the same cards in the top tier decks for as long of time.
Yes.
This was a very popular decision particularly with pro players, and it was a popular decision from the perspective of coverage, because watching Magic be played is always more entertaining when the decks are fresh, so that it's not just like, all right, it's another Pro Tour time for another deck with, XYZ cards in it.
Right.
But apparently, according to Wizards, this was a problem that it wasn't good for new or casual players, which to note is the majority of players.
Yes. Yeah.
It's important to listen to the pros, obviously, but they have a very different perspective on what it is to play Magic and just what news like this is. So it's interesting because basically this is not word for word what Wizards said, but basically the problem was that casual players like F&M players didn't feel comfortable buying in to Standard if they didn't think that they were going to get basically the investment out of their cards for long enough.
Yeah.
And it was really, and this is all sort of, what's the word for it? Individual opinions. Anecdotal. Thank you. This is all anecdotal stuff from online comments and things, but a lot of people saying like, yeah, Standard at my store died.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, right? Like, because it's very easy to miss a few weeks of F&M. And if you do that, suddenly, like, the number of games that you get to play with, like, your Smuggler's Copter, right? Which are expensive now. You go out and buy a playset, and suddenly, like, you've lost a third of their playtime in Standard, right? Feels bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Super bad.
I can utterly see that really discouraging people from buying into Standard.
Yeah, I know that, again, people have very strong opinions, obviously. I personally, I don't have strong opinions.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I recommend you check out the professor over at the Tolarian Community College. He did a video. He turned this one out like that afternoon. He was so excited.
Yeah, he was super happy.
The video is called "Standard is Saved," which he's very clear. He doesn't mean fixed because he thinks there's still problems, but saved as far as he's concerned. Because it's anecdotally the change was great for pros and great for watching Magic coverage, but not good for casual or new players because it seemed to create a larger barrier to entry.
This will be interesting too because this is the first. Because they sort of, at the same time as they made the shorter Standard, they also switched to the new release format with the two sets.
Which is not changing.
Right. So that's going to be, so it's not going to like go back to the way it was. We're not going to have the situation where you have, the big sets anymore or the core sets anymore. So that'll be quite, like, it'll be quite the, because it used to be like, depending on the timing, there was either one or two core sets, and then four, and then the last two of the big sets, or of the
blocks,
and so now we're gonna have 3 blocks, basically,
or 4 blocks,
4 blocks,
4 blocks instead of 3.
Yeah, it'll be 7 or 8 sets will be legal instead of 5 or 6.
Right, so you'll get quite the diverse.
Yeah,
you have one, you'll have one Standard environment that's got everything from, Innistrad to Kaladesh to
Zendikar
to Amonkhet.
To Amonkhet.
To Amonkhet. So you're getting.
And it won't be until the set after Amonkhet comes out that Battle for Zendikar rotates out.
Yeah.
And so I mean,
Eldrazi and also Pyramids.
Yeah, but the concern, of course, is that, or at least the concern from people who are against this new change, is that once the meta settles on the deck that is best, then that deck is around for a year.
Yeah.
Or 2 years.
Yeah, or I mean, even 2 years if it was possible, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
But the loss of a modern Pro Tour which people were pretty keen about, was, well, people had differing opinions on losing a Modern Pro Tour, but it was sort of mitigated by, well, if all 4 Pro Tours are standard, at least with the new rotation, it'll be more fresh each time.
Yeah.
But now we're going back to the presumably less fresh standard rotation, but still having all 4 Pro Tours being standard. So some people are sort of like, well, that's going to be kind of boring to watch because it's going to be the same decks each time.
Yeah.
Which we don't know that's the case.
Yeah,
but
no, it's...
like you say, it doesn't feel like it was so long ago that they made the change because we've really only just started to see it.
Yeah, and the results of that at Pro Tour Honolulu were actually remarkable, where you had an impressive diversity of decks in the top 8. I'm not sure there were any mirrors in the top 8.
I mean, the finals was a control mirror,
yeah.
but they were different decks.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Again, I don't personally have very strong opinions about this, but we wanted to at least talk about it and let you know if you weren't aware, so that it's the change is effective immediately. The change before had to let the things cycle out organically because it was a shortening of change. Lengthening it means that they can make it effective now. So currently, what's legal in standard is Battle for Zendikar, Shadows of Innistrad, and Kaladesh. And previously, what would have happened is when Amonkhet came out, Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch would cycle out. But now they will remain until the next fall set, and then Zendikar and Oath will rotate.
Yeah,
it's
so
not
you can...
it's not like Khans is back into.
No, yeah.
So you can feel confident picking up like your Ulamogs.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I will say I do. I really like the two sets per block change.
Oh yeah,
and I'm glad that they're keeping that because they're
having just opened a pack of Dark Ascension.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you get all the sweet cards and fewer of the filler.
The reasoning for that change was sort of running out of design steam by the third set in a block, and also running out of hype. That they found people were not as hyped to open.
Yeah, it's like, and now the third, who cares anymore?
Yeah, like we've been doing this all year, whereas now, we've in the past year we've had Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, Shadows of Innistrad, Eldritch Moon, and now Kaladesh, and everything just seems so fresh.
Maybe that's going to be what keeps it fresh. It's just like more sets.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, because there'll be more dramatic changes in mechanics.
Because it's like you have a third more sets now.
Well, the same number of sets, but instead.
But they're changing flavor more often.
Yes, exactly. Because it used to be, to be clear, it used to be 1, 2, 3 core set, and the 3 would be in the same block and the same world and the same sort of flavor and everything and similar mechanics.
And the core sets were always just sort of generic magical cards.
And the core set was sort of whatever. And then the next year you'd do it again. You'd have 3 sets all sort of kind of the same, and then the core set. And so now it's 2 and 2, and they get to change up the world and change up the mechanics and the flavor and everything more frequently. So that's nice at least. But talking about Pro Tour Honolulu, this is one of the other things we wanted to talk about. We got one more topic later, but there were some really interesting decks.
Yeah.
So I was sort of, I guess not surprised, but I was like curious to see the return of dominant decks from the last Pro Tour, such as Black Green Delirium. There was a bunch of
competitive decks at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of those decks. That deck did very well in the last Pro Tour, and they were doing well at this Pro Tour. But some of the new decks that I thought were very interesting. I want to talk about Temur Aetherworks.
Yes.
So
I'm looking at the deck list right now.
The Aetherworks Marvel. This is a mythic legendary artifact. It's 4 mana, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
It's 4 or 5. I'm trying to remember. 4 mana. Legendary artifact. It has this ability that says whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get 1 energy. That was less relevant. You tap and pay 6 energy. Look at the top 6 cards of your library, and you can cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. So the ideal... Did you see any of these games, Alex?
No,
okay,
I didn't actually see any.
The ideal scenario for this, turn 1, forest or green land, attune with Ether. So you get to go looking for a land and you get 2 energy. Turn 2, what's the puzzle knot? The blue one.
Glass Blowers.
Turn 2, Glass Blowers Puzzle Knot. which lets you scry 2 and you get 2 energy. Turn 3, sacrifice Glassblower's Puzzle Knot, which lets you scry another 2 and get 2 energy.
Got it.
That's 6 energy. So turn 4, you play Aetherworks Marvel, activate it immediately, look at the top 6 cards of your library, cast Emrakul for free, take your opponent's next turn, and presumably win the game.
Welp.
So the deck ran 4 copies of Emrakul and 4 copies of Ulamog
Yep.
as the payloads. A bunch of cheap stuff to make energy and filter your deck, like the Glassblower's Puzzle Knot, which not only gives you energy, but lets you scry 4 by the time that you've cast it and sacked it.
That's exciting.
Also, it plays Contingency Plan.
What the hell
Also
is
known
that?
as the functional reprint of Taigam Scheming, which is look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of them in your graveyard, and put the rest back on top of your library in any order.
Can I see this card?
How unspeakably dank is this deck?
Like, that's not a good card.
It's such a bad card, and it runs a bunch of them to
because
blow you the hell out.
That's
right?
really
like,
cool.
You just need to stack the top of your deck, basically.
Wow.
And then, you activate the Aetherworks Marvel, and then resolve an Eldrazi and win. Like this.
Well, like
this deck,
Contingency Plan also puts Kozilek's Return in your graveyard, so that when you
So
Wow.
this deck also ran because it's Teamer, right? So it's green, blue, red. So this deck also ran. It was running red primarily for the Kozilek's Return, which dealt 2 damage to each creature. But whenever you cast an Eldrazi with CMC 7 or greater, and Kozilek's Return is in your graveyard.
You cast it for free.
You cast it for free, and it deals 5 to every creature. So you use the Contingency Plan to get Kozilek's Return into your bin. Then you activate the Marvel. You hit with, or you cast Emrakul or Ulamog. You wipe their whole board. If they have something big enough that lives through the Kozilek's Return, then on their turn you attack the turn of theirs that you're controlling. You attack their creature into Emrakul and laugh all the way to the bank, and then they get their turn to try and do something, and then you start hitting them with Emrakul. So this deck, it was very interesting. This deck could be explosive. Like I said, you could effectively win the game on turn 4. Not like mechanically, but the game could basically be over once Emrakul hits the table. Or you could whiff. It happened. It happened on camera a bunch. You could brick. But then you could build up again. Like, it was pretty easy to then build your energy stores back up and fire off the Aetherworks Marvel a second time and try to hit a game.
Especially considering, Glassblower's Puzzle Knot gets you 1 additional energy if you already have it in play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the games that we saw this on coverage that was losing were... It was rarely games where they weren't fast enough and got overrun by more aggressive decks. It was more games where they just, for the thanks to the gods of randomness, they just kept whiffing.
Yeah, or like you showed me the screenshot where he had 7 Eldrazi Titans in his hand.
I took a screenshot. It was 5, but I took a screenshot.
5, sorry.
I took a screenshot of Rich Hone's hand at one point in the tournament, and he had his entire hand, 5 cards, was Emrakul, 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 Ulamog, Ulamog. And your hand is the last place you want these cards.
That's so awkward.
Yeah. And he'd activate the Marvel, brick completely, Contingency Plan, totally brick, pass the turn. On his turn, draw an Eldrazi, and then try to go off again and just not do it. And it was
Come on.
Yeah. I think the deck that gave this the most trouble was, well, I don't know. See, the thing is, if you could have the explosive start, you were doing well against the new control decks. If it went to late game, the new control decks gave this deck a real hard time. Because, even if you cast the Emrakul, you get the turn trigger, but they can still counter Emrakul. So you still get to control the next turn, but they can still counter it. And then you don't get the Eldrazi, which you kind of need to sort of close the game out. There was also I don't know if you have the list for it, the red-white vehicles deck.
Oh, yes, yeah.
This was sort of the de facto aggro deck of the format.
Yeah.
And it was quite quick. It's also one of many decks that ran our friend the Smuggler's Copter. Which,
is this the deck that plays Nerd Ape?
by the way, the nickname for the Smuggler's Copter, the Looter Scooter.
Looter Scooter.
Much better than whatever we called it on the podcast.
Yeah, I've heard Looter Scooter and Rafflecopter.
The Rafflecopter, yeah. So it's a 3/3 vehicle for 2 mana with flying. It only takes 1 to crew it, and whenever it attacks, you may loot. You may draw a card and discard a card.
Yeah, the 1/1 for a red that gets pumped if you control an artifact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I think it's called Nerd Ape now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
Inventor's Apprentice.
So
Yeah.
Loot copter is what we called it.
We called it
So
loot
close, but not quite there.
Almost got there.
Yeah. No, Looter Scooter's way better.
Yeah.
So what did this one run vehicle-wise?
It ran Cultivator's Caravan, which is
Right.
the 3 mana, like
Really?
it's a mana rock that turns into a 5/5.
But it was mostly centered around the Smuggler's Copter.
Yeah. Smuggler's Copter, notable for single-handedly rendering Chandra extinct in standard.
That makes me
Yeah,
powerfully
nobody was
unhappy.
running the new Chandra. Basically, nobody was running the new Chandra. Because
Well, I'm hoping that
Like sorcery speed removal, as it
Maybe-
turns out, is very bad against vehicles.
maybe she'll be like the original printing of Jace, where that when that card came out, people were like, "This is garbage," and then a couple more cards got printed. It's like, "Oh no, he's bananas,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
or
it-
maybe not. Who knows?
Red needs instant.
Not that one. the
Red
other
needs
one. Yeah.
instant
Not that
speed
one.
artifact removal, right? It needs like a shatter effect, right?
So there was Thraben Inspector was really relevant for this deck.
The
Which,
what?
the 1/2 for a single white.
Holy moly!
Yeah, 1/2 for a single white comes with a clue, right?
That's
Turn
hot.
2 Smuggler's Copter. Thraben Inspector can pilot the copter.
Yeah.
You have a clue, and the clue was relevant for artifacts, just
Yep.
for artifact count, for just being a clue and letting you draw a card. What was the? There was a card, right? Pia Nalar. I don't know if Pia Nalar was in that particular
she
deck list you're
wasn't.
looking at.
But yeah,
But
because
there was a red white vehicles deck that had Pia, because the single mana sack an artifact, target creature can't block this turn. That was pretty relevant. So you had I think that what they came up with on coverage was that she's hurling the artifact in someone's face and they're getting distracted by it.
Yeah.
So Pia could hurl clue tokens.
Oh, wow.
At creatures, make them not block, and then you can get through with Pia and a bunch of Thopters and a Smuggler's Copter. You could have a Thopter pilot a Copter, which is always funny.
Copter.
Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, that deck was also super sweet. I enjoyed that one a lot.
yeah. Sorry, there's 2 different versions of it. There's a Mardu one that's splashing for unlicensed disintegration.
Yep, unlicensed integration is pretty relevant.
Yep.
Because
And then-
you were frequently controlling artifacts. You get in for an additional 3 for fun.
But yeah, Thraben Inspector's been an all-star for its entire life in Standard.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an efficiently costed creature that draws you a card at some point in the future, and
imagine-
now it has this sweet artifact synergy.
Just imagine talking to the Thraben Inspector. Like, okay, first of all, calm down. Secondly, you're in a different world. It's
Yep.
called Kaladesh. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Thirdly, get in this helicopter and go.
What? Ah!
I'm flying!
This is unnatural.
I just like to point out extreme flavor fail.
Oh.
By legend rules, you can have both Pia and Kira Nalar and Pia Nalar by herself.
There's only room in this plane for the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Kieran's like, okay,
Yeah.
seems fine.
2 Pias at the same
Hey,
time.
Chandra, how can you get 2 moms?
Oh man. The finals of the Pro Tour was actually a control mirror
Yeah.
with a Jeskai control deck facing off against a Grixis control deck.
Yeah.
And it's weird. This was super interesting Magic to watch, if slow paced. But it was really interesting. Not that the pace of play was slow, because both Carlos Ramos and Shota Yasuoka played very quickly.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was very strategic and
Yep.
technical. And as Rich Hagan said, it wasn't just your classic draw go. It was actually draw discard go.
Yeah.
Because there was turns there where Shota was like, draw a card. Well, I don't want to just cast something to use my mana because I want to have my mana open. So I guess I'll just pitch this card and pass the turn back. And there was turns after turn where they were just like staunchly refusing to do anything. Nice,
Yeah.
Paul. And then, someone would do something, it'd be this flurry of counterspells on the stack.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really interesting because the all-singing, all-dancing counterspell of this particular season, Void Shatter, which is just a cancel, right?
Yeah.
But it exiles whatever it hits,
Yep.
is a colorless spell, which means that it can be hit by Ceremonious Rejection.
so people would run Ceremonious Rejection, and they would board in even more.
Yeah, Ceremonious Rejection here taking being a 1 blue counterspell that counters a colorless spell. So this is taking the role of like a dispel effect.
Yeah, to
Which is a
counter specifically Void
Sorry,
Shatter.
which
Yeah.
spell?
No.
Dispels.
And now, why were people running Void Shatter over a different counterspell? Because Void Shatter exiled. And why
Yep.
was that relevant? Because of one of the other big parts of both of these decks, the Torrential Gear Hulk,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
was the
That thing's a monster, by the way.
the Snapcaster Hulk. You know?
Yeah.
I think I've told.
Hulk Splash.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you about my experience with this in Highlander?
No.
Well, I had it cast against me. Sorry, flashed in against me.
Feels bad.
Flashing back.
I'm gonna say cryptic.
No, dig through time.
Oh.
Which was especially funny because they had Ancestral Recall in their bin. It's like, no, turns out if you're paying nothing,
Yeah.
dig is better than
Yeah.
Recall.
Well, I mean, you hit recall with Snapcaster.
So yeah, the Torrential Gear Hulk, as a reminder, is a 5/6 with flash. For
I also
this
think it
card.
looks the best.
It's
Yeah.
pretty sweet for 4 blue, and then when you cast it, you can play an instant or sorcery from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And so you would frequently have people with 6 mana up, and
Pass.
opponent would play something, and then you, like one player would pay all 6 to counter the spell because they would flash into Gear Hulk, flash back a counter spell.
That's messed up.
And then not only does their opponent not get to cast the spell they were going for, but now they're facing down this 5/6 when they pass the turn.
It makes me very happy. These were much more entertaining matches, I think, than the like the Coco mirrors that you would occasionally see. Even with very good pilots, these were much more interesting plays.
So what else was in what else were in these decks?
Well, the Grixis, the Jeskai version is probably the closest to a more traditional control list because it plays things like Fumigate, and it has Dovin Ban, who is like a pretty traditional blue-white planeswalker.
Dovin Ban, not exciting.
No, but definitely effective.
Yeah.
Shoryu Saka, particularly heroic in this final for fighting through and winning the final match against a Dovin Ban.
Yeah,
emblem.
I think it was game
Was
3.
Oh, was it 3?
It wasn't the
Oh,
final game.
no, right,
It was like
yeah.
because it was a best of 5.
Yes,
but
yes,
yeah,
sorry.
Ramos got the -7, the Dovin Ban emblem, which is the static orb, right? It says your opponent can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap step, and that turned out to not be a problem for Yasuoka.
Wow.
Yeah. It was. He had so much mana that he was able to do everything he wanted to do, even if
Crazy.
things stayed tapped down. It
Yeah.
was an amazing match.
Yeah. So
just
like
wanted
the
to
I'm
Point
sorry.
out something about Fumigate in our format, Canadian Highlander.
Hmm.
Ben Wheeler described it as the first playable 5-mana Wrath.
Absolutely.
in
This is exactly
Highlander.
what a control deck wants to be doing on
It's
turn 5.
real good.
Because it stabilizes you and it wipes the board.
Yep.
Right? This just ruins a Swarm Strategy's day.
Yeah, gaining the life gain is
I'm
pretty huge.
looking forward to feeling real bad being fumigated out.
It like this seems I would absolutely agree with Ben that this is the first playable 5-drop Wrath spell.
Yeah.
Otherwise like it plays Archangel Avacyn.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that card.
That's one of the big creature payloads, right?
Yeah, which seems
I think those are the only creatures that the Jeskai version plays, right?
which is a bit odd because it seems difficult to flip Archangel Avacyn, but I know for a
That's
fact
not
that
a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not why it's there. It's there because
It's a 4/4 vigilance flyer.
with flash,
Yeah.
right? This
yeah.
deck only runs creatures with flash, so
Yep.
it can keep all of its mana up.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So it's only exploiting like once she's on the board, Archangel Avacyn is just Sarah Angel, which was the original like the OG control payload. Right? Which is fine.
Ain't that a thing?
Yeah.
She's just Sarah Angel
classic.
Flash.
Yep.
Just
Sarah Angel with sick upgrades.
Yeah.
You did see. I saw one of these control decks against the Aetherworks deck, where the control deck flashed in Avacyn, and then the Aetherworks player cast a Harnessed Lightning, gaining 3 energy from the lightning, but using 4 energy to kill Avacyn while when Avacyn enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain indestructible trigger was on the stack. Because you do have a chance to respond to that. And I was like, oh, that's all right,
Yeah.
cool.
So here, like the red is for Radiant Flames, Harnessed Lightning, and I think that's it.
What's Radiant Flames do again?
Radiant Flames is the Converge Pyroclasm.
Right.
So it can do 1, 2, or 3 to all to all creatures.
It's pretty cool.
So it's build your own pyroclasm, right?
Like, how big do you want it?
Well, 1, 2, or 3, but yes.
And then a lot of like O-ring effects and divine verdicts.
I believe Yasuoka also won one of the games in the finals with, I want to say, 4 cards left in his library.
Oh, it also has Linvala in the sideboard.
Wait, what?
Dank.
That is dank.
Not everything can be dank.
Everything is dank.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever questioned the dankness.
Also, these 2 control decks are noteworthy in that you would expect to see a lot of the same cards in it because they're both centered in blue-red, but like even within that, there is some variation. Like they're both running Radiant Flames, they're both running Torrential Gearhulk, but after that, it starts to show a little bit of variance.
What's the Grixis one doing differently?
Okay, it's running Thing in the Ice for one thing.
Right. 2 Gearhulks and 4 Thing in the Ice.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It's running Painful Truths to draw cards as its draw engine.
Yeah, which is a Converge sort of Sign and Bloodish.
Yeah,
It's actually
it's running
quite
one
good.
of Transgress the Mind, which I think is great. I really like that card. It runs Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah,
what?
Glimmer of Genius was a pretty important.
Oh no, sorry, they're both running Glimmer of Genius.
They both had it. This was a pretty important card for this
Yeah.
matchup. It was the 4-mana
this
instant,
one.
Anticipate.
scry 2, draw 2, get 2 energy. The energy was less relevant, but scry 2, draw 2 for 4 mana while you're keeping your mana open was pretty important for this matchup.
Yeah, no, sorry, ignore me. Like these decks are quite similar, but there are like nuances between them that are pretty relevant. I really like Jace Unraveler of Secrets in the Grixis control deck.
Right.
Like these
The
are
one of.
Yeah, these are very separate flavors of control. Right. The Grixis control deck seems to be much more in the style of like the 2-for-1s
Yeah.
with things like Unlicensed Disintegration.
If you have opportunity and a lot of time, you should definitely check out the replay of the finals of the Pro Tour because they're very, very interesting games. And I don't believe we've spoiled who won, so yeah, go check it out. I've definitely mentioned people who won individual games, but you should check that out. So yeah, this was super cool. I haven't paid a lot of attention to Standard in a while, and some of these decks looked really sweet.
Yeah, like the Temur Aetherworks deck is cool.
That's my
like
favorite,
yeah,
to be honest.
It's a wonderful combo.
Yeah.
The one that actually made me the happiest was the blue-red spells deck running Dynavolt Tower.
Right. So yeah, Dynavolt Tower is really interesting. It's a 3-mana artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get 2 energy, and then you pay 5. You tap it and pay 5 energy, and you get a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem super efficient, but as it turns out, you can generate a lot of energy if you try.
Yeah, if you're using like Glimmer of Genius and Harness Lightning, yeah, you can really go off with this.
Yeesh.
Also, you can have multiple Dynavolt Towers.
Yep.
And then you get multiple
This was a
energy.
question I was really curious about with Dynavolt Tower because I was talking with Ben about this and how many Dynavolt Towers you really want to be running, right? Because only one of them can make use of the energy.
Yeah, but
right?
they can all generate energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not legendary, so.
And this is interesting in that it seems to have completely replaced the 0-3 that taps to do 1 and untaps when you cast an instant or
We were
sorcery.
just talking about him.
Thermo Alchemist.
Thermo Alchemist. I can never
Oh yes,
remember.
Ether Hub. I forgot to mention both for the Dynavolt Tower deck and the Temur Aetherworks deck, how relevant the land Ether Hub is, because it's a land drop that gives you an energy.
Yeah.
So you don't have to spend a spell on it. So that's relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, these were super
Yeah,
cool.
this is like all these decks. I mean, there are 2 control decks that do have like a similar suite of blue and red spells, but after that kind of diverge. There are 2 red-white vehicle decks. One of them is a Mardu deck, but they do have, they're all running like Looter Scooter and, Gideon.
I gotta get
think.
one of those.
So there are similarities, but there are nuanced differences that make these decks different from one another and play differently. And I think that's a very good indicator of like, a more healthy Standard than we've seen recently.
Yeah. And the last thing that someone brought up on Twitter when we were asking for topics, which we thought was a really interesting question, was sort of how we got to where we are individually in Magic. We've talked before about how and when we started actually playing Magic for this current time that we are playing Magic. but sort of how we got to where we are. And I think by way of explanation, I will go first. When we started playing, we started just right into kitchen table games, largely standard, and then we sort of learned about what the formats were, and we're like, oh, okay, standard, okay, so we can't use these cards or whatever. So it's because if we want to do it correctly, and then we got into Commander as well, because that was ridiculous and hilarious and all that. And where I've converged is that I'm a huge fan of limited, much more than constructed, because I don't have the time to tinker and brew, and I don't have the interest to keep up on the metagame. Like we were talking about these decks. I think these decks are sweet, but I don't have the I don't get a chance to actually go to normal F&M, and so I don't want to sort of be aware about what the metagame is, or worry about changing my sideboard week to week, or building like net decking or whatever, going or sort of working out what our local standard meta is, because it's different than other metas, and that's the same for modern as well. It's just the time and effort to maintain a deck list isn't something that I have the time or interest for. Whereas limited, I love that. I mean, you need to be up on you need to understand nuances of the limited format. But you
listen to like limited resources while you edit. So.
Yeah, exactly. I just really like being able to be like, I sit down, I do a draft, and that's it. I like win or lose, I have a lot of fun with sit down, draft, build a deck, play that deck, and it's like, cool. That was a good experience in Magic for me, and that's why I prefer. I also vastly prefer watching limited. I know that some people really dig watching, like games of standard to sort of see how the decks can be played by pros or whatever. But I vastly prefer watching limited, because from an entertainment perspective, it's different every time, and I just love seeing like, oh, this is a totally different thing, rather than when a streamer's like, testing this deck for upcoming pro tour, and you're just watching game after game after match after match of the same deck, and you're just sort of like, okay, cool, I get it. So that's where I am in terms of how I got to what kind of Magic I play at the moment.
I actually wound up following a very similar kind of path, where I started when I was like 12 or 13 years old, I think, when Magic first came out, and I wound up like playing this Merfolk deck, which was toilets, but I had 3 Lords of Atlantis, and that was pretty big.
Hey, Lord of Atlantis is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but it was also running like all these junk Merfolk from Fallen Empires and Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, and then eventually I grew out of it. I think I got into whatever the next thing was. And then I came back to it several years later with friends around Apocalypse Block. And, that was pretty cool. It was kitchen table Magic again. And we were just like killing time between Warhammer games. And I got out of it again. And then I got into it with you guys. And I think I started playing Standard a little bit, because that was the correct way.
Right.
And I've experimented around with a couple of other formats. And recently I've decided, since I'm basically always working Friday nights and never get to go to Standard, and I'm frequently busy Monday nights, which is our Highlander night, that I am just a limited player now. Because I went home and I organized my collection and realized I have 30 cubic feet of Magic cards.
Does anybody want it?
Yeah, just want it. Like,
pick up only.
Yeah, pick up only, all collection. And I want a space capsule life, right?
You would go get back into Standard for several weeks at a time, and then sort of fall out of love with your deck for a while.
Yeah.
And then build a new thing, and then sort of up and down.
Yeah.
And then I think just sort of decided.
Yeah, it's I couldn't play enough Standard to keep myself invested in the meta, and then some nights you just have the run bads, and you're like you leave after 2 rounds, and then you miss the next week, and suddenly your deck is no longer competitive.
We also locally we've talked about this before, that we have a very competitive local Standard, because it's the local Standard players are quite affluent, as it turns out.
And they're also very good.
Yeah, they're very, very good, but they're also like, what's the top tier deck? Great, I'll build it.
Yep.
You know, and so I know that many people's FNMs is sort of, you know, everyone rocks up with whatever weird brew they've been tinkering at home that week, and that's also sweet, but that is definitely not how our local FNM works.
Yeah.
Our local FNM is
very competitive.
serious. It's it is very competitive.
So yeah, like I decided
that's why I stopped going. I was like, I don't want to pay $6 to lose.
yeah, yeah, like not just lose, but just get like trash canned.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the first times I ever went to like real FNM was during like Cobblade.
Oh,
And
the suffering.
And so I sat down against John Rickard, who's a very good local player, and he was like, okay, Jace, and I'm like, what's this do? And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, okay, oh, I get it. And he was just like, bounce. Like I was playing a deck I'd made at home that topped out at like Terra Stomper, right? And he was like, bounce it, bounce it, bounce it. Like I was like, I can't do anything else. All I can do is keep replaying Terra Stomper, and he just keeps bouncing it, and I lose.
The most excruciating experience I've ever had in Standard, and sometimes in Highlander, is just being fate sealed to death by Jace.
Yeah.
Because it's this slow, agonizing, inevitable doom.
Yeah.
And the game is over. Like,
yeah, and then Jace ultimates you
turns.
and fate seals you the next turn again.
Yep.
And you're like,
like-
I only have 3 cards. Just end it, and you're
actually the worst feel is that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Like,
the worst fate seal I ever had was
I
somebody
hate you, Jace.
was, again, I had rocked up with like this casual deck. I think it was running Venser and a bunch of like flicker effects, and it was kind of sweet. Like I had a draw engine in it and a couple of combos, and like my opponent fate seals me and looks at, I think, Glimmerpoint Stag, and is like, okay.
See, I'm curious. I want to
Yeah.
see what it is.
Yeah.
Where are you
He's like-
going with this?
Yeah, I think he actually said, I want to see where this is going.
All right. Well,
Oh wow.
we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Highlander man?
I started. This is same as Cam. This is my 3rd time playing Magic because my folks bought me and Raymond a set of either unlimited or revised way back in the day, and I remember sort of like fooling around with it in our basement and being really upset by the art on Pestilence.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was really horrifying, but you know I ended up.
There's some early Magic art that
They're really twisted.
really freaked me out.
So
Yeah.
the first and kind of second time I got into Magic, I had no idea what I was doing. In fact, I didn't actually play it. I just thought the cards were really cool, and so I was always after stuff that I was like, "Oh, this is super neat," and
That
it's
was my
got
first
cool
time
art.
playing as
And
well. Oh,
yeah, and I didn't know how to play at all. So the first time, I got a bunch of cards, and then I got out of it. And then when I was in Europe, weirdly enough, on a school trip, I got into it again because a couple of the guys played. I still don't think I played very much there. I was still buying cards. But then the third time where it stuck was at PAX with everybody when we were stuck in line, started playing with the little giveaways. And I took kind of a different route to you two because I ended up in a weird format that's constructed. So Highlander, I talk about all the time. I think I'm a brew fiend. I might actually like brewing more than I like playing.
Yeah.
Because it's just fun. There's this enormous library of cards to pick from and just like assembling them into a package to see if could this work? Can I get enough density of this style of effect to make it, maybe not good, probably not tier 1, but
functional.
But, functional. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like I've built all sorts of stupid decks, and I really dig, tooling around with stuff. I've got my cockatrice folder, which is what I use to brew most of my decks, is like hundreds of entries. A lot of lists that I may never look at again, but it was just kind of fun to put them together.
Yeah, like I really want to play Highlander. It's just I can make it work maybe one night in every 4 months.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point as well, but, maybe I'll find some more time eventually. I do go out to the occasional nights and, pick up casual games with people.
Yeah.
I've also sort of become a little bit of a collector.
Yeah.
Because, I'm trying to make a highly concentrated Highlander toolkit that's just the best cards ever printed.
Right.
In their first printings.
Ooh.
Nice.
Which
So much white border though.
No. most of the cards that
What are
I
you
can
talking?
think
There were no
of.
for white border cards.
Yeah. Most of the ones that I can think of, I hate white border. The only white border card that I have, because it's kind of correct, is Fire Ambush. In simplified Chinese.
Fire Ambush in Chinese.
Yep.
Wow.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, like I've got basically just one double box that's gonna have my entire collection.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know which version of Chinese, but yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
It's a volcanic hammer, but Chinese.
Yeah, fair enough. Volcanic Hammer 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, no, I've done the thing where I've started like just giving away my limited decks after I play paper,
Yeah.
and flipping the rares to the store for credit.
Same.
Right. So I was gonna say the first printing thing is how I've avoided wanting to foil out my collection, because I don't actually like foils,
Fair.
which is good because it makes it way cheaper. But sometimes the first printings of stuff are also a little expensive. You know, like I just picked up I picked up a Curd Ape finally from Arabian Nights, and it was like $5 or $6.
If you put foil in your toolkit, which you wouldn't, but if you did,
Yep. Make it a foil.
that one would have to be foil.
Yeah, it would have to be
foil.
foil.
Isn't foil like foil is kind of like gush, isn't
It's
it?
very bad. It's
Is it?
very, very bad. Run away. Don't look at this
It's a
card.
trap.
It's a taper.
You have to discard an island.
Oh, wait. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. I still don't think this one is good.
Because it's discard.
Not good enough for Highlander anyway.
Probably not. I've never seen this card played. It's
And you've gotten wrecked by counter spells plenty of times.
yeah. Mana Drain's the worst one.
Yeah, Mana Drain feels so bad.
Can I just say, like, F that card? I hate it so much.
Yep.
I kind of wish it would be pointed, but that gets into its own discussion. But
So without wanting to put you on the spot, because we both talked about what the formats we play and why we like them, and the formats we don't and why we don't. Why aren't you as big on limited as the rest of us?
well, I'm trying to think of a non-crappy way to say I like playing with good cards.
No, that's fair. Right? Like,
That's honestly it. Like,
yeah, no, that's totally
I get it, I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
once you've like dipped into, like, once you've let the genie out of the bottle, you know what's good and what shape, a good card is. And it feels odd trying to get excited over, like, 3 4s for 5 or something.
Yeah,
To be
it's
like,
like,
I should play this, but this
So how do
card
you
is
feel about
bad.
how do you feel about cube draft?
I fucking love Cube.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it combines the best of both,
Nice,
where it's just
yeah.
like you're doing the drafting part. Because drafting is fun, like
Yeah.
doing the picks. But then it's just this carefully curated collection of the best cards.
Yeah.
So, it's always, these agonizing choices where it's like, oh, these are all good. These are good cards, but which one do I pick for
Yeah.
which deck?
Like,
So
no, I totally
that's-
get that. Like, once you've played, like, Swords to Plowshares, it's pretty hard to get excited about whatever, like,
Yeah, it's
deal
like,
3 damage to attacking creature for 2 and a white is in this limited set, right?
yeah, and because my lens is so laser focused on picking out like Highlander playable singles, which is basically like Legacy or Vintage playable singles. Where I'm now assessing cards, on things like the wisdom that I picked up from, it was either Ben Wheeler or Surge, is if you're trying to suss out a card for Highlander, look at it from its worst case scenario.
That sounds like a Ben Wheeler thing.
Yeah, it's really great actually, because it's like then you avoid a lot of the trap cards, a lot of the like garbage cards, where it's just like, okay, what is this card at its worst, and would I still play it? So that's how stuff like Grimflayer ends up being good, where it's just like, if I never ever hit Delirium, do I still want to play a 2/2 for 2 with trample?
It's like, sure.
That filters. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
So, and then if I get Delirium, sweet, bonus.
What's that, Paul?
I was just gonna say, quick side note, foil the card.
Yep.
It's like a 40-cent uncommon.
Right.
I'm going to say banned in
foil?
Legacy.
Sorry.
Banned in which formats?
No, it's an $11 foil.
Yeah.
Because
Just because the joke.
I'm sure
Probably.
just because of the joke.
It's like,
Well,
hey,
it's-
hey,
it's
look,
also
look,
like-
look.
Well,
Guys.
have you ever played the Spot the Legacy foil on like Card Kingdom?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
right.
okay.
where
So-
it's like, all right, I want to build a deck using this card, and you look up like Thought Scour, and it's like 15 cents or whatever, and the foil is like $37.
You're like, that's the legacy
You're like a
thing.
C.
Yeah.
It's like Delver, 10 cents, foil's like 15, 20 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's at least for the three of us, sort of why we do the magic that we do. And the best part is, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. We don't have to
Many
fight
different
about it
ways
either.
of playing Magic.
Well, it's like the occasions where I get the chance to draft, I will usually be into. I actually kind of dig Conspiracy.
Conspiracy is so fun.
Conspiracy is pretty
Conspiracy is even if you're not into limited conspiracy, you just get to do so much bonkers stuff.
Yeah.
That I really dig it. So. Anyway, that's going to be it for Tap Tap Concede today. Oh, you know what I forgot to do at the top of the show?
What'd you do?
I forgot to shout out to our
no.
sponsor.
Oh.
You done goofed.
How embarrassing. Tap Tap Concede is brought to you by the kind people at CardKingdom.com. Please check out CardKingdom.com/LRR. If you go there, then the LRR affiliate code is automatically applied, which lets them know that we sent you to them, which is helpful for us because it lets them know that their sponsorship of us is worthwhile. And we think it's worthwhile to work with them because, as I always say, they are legit the site that we use when we're buying singles online.
Yep.
They have competitive prices and astonishingly good customer service, and their shipping is hella fast. And we really encourage you to check out CardKingdom.com because we think that they're great.
I've had uniformly good experiences with Card Kingdom. Actually, uniformly excellent experiences with them.
And if you tell them, Loading Ready Run sent me button, please, they will give you a little 1-inch button that we make and send over to them, which they always say different things. Right now they say, always be casting. So you can get those with your order. And also, this podcast and all of our podcasts and videos and streams or whatever is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Twitch or our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Please do check that out. We very much appreciate it. And it's going to be it for this week. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Toodles.